Hey, what's up guys? Combat Critic here. In this video, let's take a look at this upcoming light heavyweight fight between Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pereira. Let's get started. If we look at the records of these two guys, starting with Jan Blachowicz, so he has 39 fights and he's won 29 of his 39 fights, lost 9, and he also has a draw on his record. If we talk about his 29 wins, he won 9 fights via knockout, 9 via submission, and 11 via decision. Pretty balanced record so far in terms of the win column. Now let's talk about his 9 losses. He's lost twice via knockout and twice via submission and another 5 times via decision. Now let's take a look at Alex Pereira. So Alex has just 9 MMA fights, so significantly less MMA experience than Jan Blachowicz. He's won 7 of his 9 fights and lost just 2. If we talk about his 7 wins, 6 of them have come via knockout and just 1 via decision. If we talk about his 2 losses, he's been knocked out once and he's also been submitted once. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats of these two guys. Starting with the height, it is 6 feet 2 for Jan and it is 6 feet 4 for Alex. So Alex will have a 2-inch height advantage on paper. However, I don't think the height of Jan is really accurate. I think during the face-off, both these guys will be about the same height. If we talk about the weight, so this fight is at light heavyweight. Alex Pereira is moving up to light heavyweight. So I think both these guys will weigh in at 205. Nobody should miss weight in this fight. If we talk about the reach is 78 inches for Jan Blachowicz and it is 79 inches for Alex Pereira. So a slight 1-inch reach advantage goes to Alex. If we talk about the stance, both these guys are orthodox stance fighters. If we talk about the age, so Jan Blachowicz is the older fighter. He is 40 years old now. And if we talk about Alex is about 4 years younger. So he is also not that young. I think he is around 37 years old. Now let's take a look at the career stats, starting with the striking numbers. First up, we have the strikes landed per minute. So this signifies the number of significant strikes that you land on your opponent per minute on average. That is 3.41 for Jan Blachowicz and it is 5.23 for Alex Pereira. So in this case, Alex is landing a lot more significant strikes on his opponents per minute and he will have an advantage here. Next up, we have the striking accuracy. It is 49% for Jan Blachowicz and 59% for Alex Pereira. So he is more accurate with his strikes. He will have an advantage here as well. Next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute. So this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute. This signifies the number of strikes that you absorb from your opponent per minute on average. That is 2.81 for Jan Blachowicz and it is 3.76 for Alex Pereira. So Alex Pereira gets hit more than Jan Blachowicz. In this case, you want this number to be as low as possible. So here the advantage actually goes to Jan Blachowicz. He is getting hit lesser. Striking defense is 54% for Jan and it is also 54% for Alex. So even though the numbers favor Jan Blachowicz, but the percentage, both these guys are tied and nobody has an advantage. Now let's take a look at the wrestling, grappling and BJJ stats of these two guys. Starting with the takedown average, it is 0.97 for Blachowicz and it is 0.28 for Alex Pereira. So in this case, the clear or obvious advantage goes to Jan Blachowicz. He is the better wrestler in this fight. Takedown accuracy is 53% for Jan Blachowicz and it is 100%. So I think Alex Pereira probably attempted like 1 or 2 takedowns in his UFC career so far. That is why he has 100% takedown accuracy. In this case, on paper, the better takedown accuracy Alex Pereira has, but I don't think this is really true. So we should not really go by this. Alex Pereira has just 9 MMA fights and he's had very few fights in the UFC. These stats are based on his fights in the UFC. Next up, we have the takedown defense. It is 68% for Jan Blachowicz and it is 73% for Alex Pereira. Now this is a more believable number. I think his takedown defense is good and on paper it looks like he is having better takedown defense than Jan Blachowicz. Next up, we have the submission average, which is 0.2 for Jan Blachowicz and 0 for Alex. Alex has never attempted a submission in the UFC so far, and the clear advantage again goes to Jan. He is the better submission artist in this fight. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position, starting with Jan Blachowicz. So 76% of all his strikes are in the standing position and 12% in the clinch. So 12% in the clinch and another 12% on the ground. If we talk about Alex, 84% in the standing position, so he mostly likes to keep it standing. 15% in the clinch and just 1% on the ground. So if it goes to the ground, Jan has an advantage. He is the better ground and pound guy. Next up, let's take a look at the significant strikes by target. If we start with Jan, so 62% of all his strikes are to the head, 22% to the body and 15% to the leg. If we take a look at Alex Pereira, so 42% of all his strikes are to the head, 35% to the body and 23% to the leg. So there is a lot more variety in Alex Pereira's shots. He is going to the body a lot more than Jan Blachowicz, and he uses a lot more leg kicks in his game than Jan Blachowicz. Overall, I think in the previous striking stats that we have seen and in this the variety of shots that Alex Pereira has, I think he is the better striker in this fight, and Jan Blachowicz is the better wrestler and submission guy. Now let's take a look at the previous performances of these two guys, starting with Blachowicz. So Blachowicz in his last fight had a draw with Magomed Ankalaev. I think this should have been a loss for him. This happened in December of 2022. It was a 5-round fight, and Jan is taking a good 6 months off and coming back to fight again. He is a pretty old guy. He is nearing the end of his career. I don't think he should be fighting frequently. He should be fighting at most like once or maybe twice a year. That's it. Before that, he won against Alexander Rakic, but this was because Rakic had a knee injury in the 3rd round. I think both the Magomed Ankalaev fight and the Rakic fight should not have been a win in Jan Blachowicz's record, but the Ankalaev fight should have been a loss, but it is a draw, and the Rakic fight we didn't really get to see much. I think if the fight would have gone on, maybe Rakic would have won and this would have been a loss as well. If we talk about the fight before that, Jan Blachowicz lost to Glover Teixeira in the 2nd round via submission rear naked choke. He did not look good in this fight. And if we talk about Glover is a training partner of Alex Pereira. So if Glover can do it, Alex can very well do it. Glover hurt Jan Blachowicz on the feet and then proceeded to choke him out on the ground. I think this will give a lot of confidence boost to Alex Pereira, knowing that his training partner Glover Teixeira has already beaten Jan Blachowicz. Before that was the peak of his career when he beat Israel Adesanya, and Israel was undefeated at the time. He was moving up to light heavyweight for double champ status, and Jan Blachowicz stopped him and he won a unanimous decision in a 5-round fight. Before that, he KO'd Dominic Reyes, Corey Anderson, Ronaldo Souza. He beat Ronaldo via split decision. He KO'd Luke Rockhold, and before that he was TKO'd by Thiago Santos. So he has been knocked out and he's lost via submission. However, his record is pretty solid and he has a lot of MMA experience, significantly more MMA experience than Alex Pereira. This is where the difference can be. He has better wrestling. Now let's take a look at Alex's record. Alex in his last fight got KO'd by his arch rival Israel Adesanya in the 2nd round. This fight happened in April of this year. So he is not taking a lot of time off after getting KO'd. This can be a cause of worry. He should have taken, I'll say, the whole of 2023 off and came back to fight in 2024. But he is coming back to fight Jan Blachowicz after I think a 3-month break. And before that, he TKO'd Israel Adesanya to become the UFC middleweight champion. This happened in the 5th round, and this fight happened in November of last year. Before that, he KO'd Sean Strickland in the 1st round. He won a unanimous decision against Bruno Silva. He TKO'd Andreas in the second round, and before that he was out of the UFC, so he does not have a lot of UFC fights, just 5 UFC fights. And this is where I think if he loses, it will be because of his inexperience in MMA. However, if I have to pick a winner, I think even though Jan is the more well-rounded fighter, I'm going with Alex Pereira. I think he can defend the takedowns of Jan Blachowicz, and if Glover Teixeira can do it, Alex can very well do it. He is a way better striker than Glover Teixeira. He just has to be careful with the takedown defense. I think he is the better striker compared to Jan Blachowicz. I think if he gets a chance to land his land his left hook, I think it will be over. For these reasons, I am picking Alex to win this fight. Let me know what you guys think. Are you picking the more well-balanced, complete fighter in Jan Blachowicz, or are you picking the knockout artist in Alex Pereira? That's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video.